Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I have the long-awaited labor and delivery story of my daughter. I meant to film this a while ago, but life has just been like crazy hectic, going from one child to two. We've just been getting into a routine and getting, our lives back on track basically. So my daughter Presley was born on January 16th, 2018 at 5:24 a.m. and she was a itty bitty 7 pounds 11 ounces and she was 21¼ inches long. And hey buddy.
Hi,
and
I love you.
I love you too. And I was totally shocked with her weight. My son, as you guys know, if you've been following me or if you watched my labor and delivery with him, he was 10 pounds 3 ounces and 21½ inches long. So he was huge. I was totally expecting her to be like at least 8 or 9 pounds, and she was tiny. I had prayed and prayed and prayed for a baby under like 8 pounds. I would have been good with 8 pounds, but 8 pounds and under, and she was 7, and so I was like shocked. But yeah, so I want to just jump right into the labor and delivery story. She's napping right now. Mace is in here, and I'm gonna try to get through this. So I have a couple notes written down that I wrote while I was in labor. Hey buddy. Oh, thank you. So let's see. I had been having a really great pregnancy, like health-wise and stuff. I felt crappy most of the time, but health-wise things were going great. But we did talk about being induced at 39 weeks if nothing had happened, just because we were so scared of another 10-pound baby, and I really wanted to avoid another 10-pound baby. I know that I could have pushed a 10-pound baby out again because I had already, but I just honestly didn't want to. The recovery with Mace was a lot more intense, blah blah blah. So I had been having contractions for a few weeks and a lot of pressure, thought for sure that I was gonna have her on my own. I had lost like part of my mucus plug, all kinds of things were happening, so I was like convinced this girl was coming on her own. Well, she did not come on her own. So at 39 weeks, I decided that I would be induced because I was just paranoid. I was sick of being pregnant. I was paranoid of a big baby. Yeah, so I went to my 38-week appointment, and I was 1 centimeter dilated. Or no, my 37-week appointment, I was half a fingertip dilated and like 80% effaced. So that was really good. That was way further than I was with Mason at that time. So I was feeling good. Went to my 38-week appointment. I was 1 centimeter dilated and the same basically, like 80% effaced, whatever. So then my 39-week mark hit, and then that Monday morning at 5 a.m. I called the hospital and they told me to come in at 5 a.m. to start the induction. So we got all ready, we said goodbye to Mason. My mom and my sister and her boyfriend were all here, so they stayed with Mason. We went to the hospital and I found out that I was 1 to 2 centimeters dilated, 80% effaced. So I had dilated a little bit more, that was good, but I was still effaced about the same. And my doctor said my cervix was really soft like butter, so that was really good. Then we just kind of waited around for a while. It felt like things were just taking forever. I just wanted to get things going, get her out, and get on with life. So at about 10:15-ish, my doctor inserted 1 dose of Cytotec, or miso something it's called. Anyway, I was really nervous about that. I was hoping that she wouldn't do that just because I had read a lot of creepy things about it. Okay, so 10:15-ish, they inserted the Cytotec, and basically I just had to sit there for, I think it was like an hour, and not get up because they wanted like the pill to dissolve in you or whatever. So of course, right when I knew that I couldn't get up and pee, I had to pee like really, really bad, but I just toughened it out and I sat there and I waited, and then we basically just hung out, Dylan and I, talking. I FaceTimed my mom a million times so I could talk to Mace. And then at 2:15, I was checked again, and basically what my doctor had said was that she hoped to break my water by 7 and have a baby by midnight, and she was convinced that my labor would be a lot shorter than it was with Mason, just because I was already dilated and my second baby, those factors. So 2:15 came, I was 3 centimeters dilated, and she decided to start pitocin. So we started the pitocin, and right away, even with the cytotech inserted, I started to feel like some minor cramping. And then once the pitocin started, I started feeling contractions. My body reacts really well to pitocin. I start contracting right away, and it just works well. I don't like pitocin. I wanted to do everything naturally, but you know, it doesn't always work out. So I was on the pitocin and just hanging out, feeling pressure, just, you know, looking forward to meeting our girl. Then at 6:10, my doctor broke my water, and I was still dilated at a 3, but my cervix had moved completely forward, right where it needed to be, and we were making progress. So that was good. I was kind of upset that I was still only at a 3, but my doctor told me that it was good because my cervix had moved forward, so my body was, you know, making progress. And my whole fear with both of my births with my kids was a C-section. I was super scared of that. So always in my mind, I'm like, okay, I just want to progress and want to push these babies. Okay, so at 9 o'clock is when some craziness happened. I had been laboring for a few hours. My contractions were like crazy intense, and I had told myself this time I might possibly get the epidural. Like, I didn't want to be in a ton of crazy pain like I was with my son. It was a ton of pain. I was throwing up with that labor. It was just craziness. I wanted peace. I wanted to enjoy the process and just, you know, not be in a ton of pain. And so that was my mindset. My mindset was I was gonna go as long as I could, and if I did it, if I, you know, gave birth without the epidural, great, but if I needed to get it, I would. And so that's basically what I did. I went as long as I could, and then when I felt like I was gonna start throwing up from the pain, I told my nurse that I wanted the epidural. And I was so nervous about it. I've read, you know, obviously all the terrible things about it, but I went into it and I was just positive and praying and hoping things went good. Well, they didn't. They went terrible. So I got the epidural, and the anesthesiologist was honestly terrible. Terrible bedside manner. Like, it was just horrendous. He was telling me, you know, because I kept saying like, oh my god, I'm so nervous, this is so scary, like whatever. I'm sure it was annoying, but I'm a mom, like who cares, you know, we're going through hell to push these babies out, you could at least be nice. So he's putting the needle in my back and telling me, you know, once I put it in the, once I put the catheter in, I don't know where it goes. I hope that it goes straight. Basically, I mean, just terrible. I'm like, okay, so I could possibly, you know, be paralyzed from this or something. Like, he was just an idiot, honestly. And Dylan was really upset too. Like, the guy was just no bedside manner. Like, terrible. Just telling me, you know, I do my best, but I can't really control where the epidural goes once it's in your spine. Like, okay, thank you. I feel a whole lot better now. So anyway, he puts it in. I feel like the tingles down my leg, like feels like shooting pain, you know, like being electrocuted almost. I don't know, it's apparently it was normal. Like when he puts it in, you feel the shocks down your legs, and he told me not to move, whatever, and like I felt really cool, just all these weird feelings. So then they lay me down, and I don't know, I was probably like a 4 or a 5, I would guess at that point. I'm not sure, because my doctor at that point, they don't like to check you once they break your water because of risk of infection. So they don't check you until you're like gonna push your baby out, basically, which is good. The less checking, the better. Good. So yeah, they lay me down and basically like get me all situated, and I start feeling really weird. Like so I start just feeling really weird, really not good. Like my breathing got weird, my chest felt super heavy, and I kept feeling like I was gonna pass out. So I'm like telling the nurse, I'm like, I don't feel good, I feel like I'm gonna pass out. And she's like, you're okay, you're okay. And I'm like, no, like things started going black. My life was no joke, like flashing before my eyes. I saw my son, like I just felt like I was dying. And my chest was so heavy I couldn't breathe. And she's like, your blood pressure could be dropping. That's super common with epidurals. The blood pressure sometimes takes a dip, or babies takes a dip. Mine was so low, you guys. I want to say it was like 80/20 or something. I mean, it was like terrible. I almost passed out. And so I told her, I was like, I'm dying. I was bawling. And she's like, you're not dying. So she quickly gave me blood pressure medicine and oxygen, and I started to feel a little bit better, and I was like, oh my god. But I mean, seriously, it was like freak out. Like, I thought I was dying. Like, I've never felt like leaving my body like that before. It was terrible. And the whole like chest pressure was just insane. And then, so she gave me the medicine, I started to feel better, and then it happened again. I was laying there, I was like, it's happening again, I'm gonna pass out again, I'm dying, I don't want to die, you know, I'm like bawling, like I don't want to leave my babies, blah blah blah. And I told, you know, my husband's right there, and I'm telling him like, I'm passing out, and my blood pressure had dipped again. So she quickly gave me another dose, and both times she took like an alcohol thing, I can't think of what they're called, and had me like smell it. And the whole thing had started because I felt like I was like getting numb too far, and I felt like my eye felt really puffy, and so I had told her that, and she would like press the alcohol pad all over me, like, do you feel this, do you feel this, do you feel this? And I felt everything, but my eye was feeling extremely puffy. And so once I got the second dose of the blood pressure medicine and I just stayed on the oxygen, and you know, she's like, just stay calm. My nurse was amazing. The anesthesiologist, terrible. My nurse, a godsend. Like, I could not have done it without her. She was amazing. And she was so quick on her feet, like, to get me the medicine. And so then I started to feel better, but my eye was so, just felt like it was like swelling up. And it wasn't. She was like, you know, you could have had some allergies before. And I'm like, no, something's up with my eye. So the anesthesiologist came back because he had been alerted that I was on oxygen. I guess it alerts them if something's going wrong or whatever, like my luck, of course. So he comes back in and he's like, what's going on? Why is she on oxygen? And the nurse told her that my blood pressure had dropped twice, extremely low. She had mentioned that she had dealt with one other patient whose blood pressure dipped really low as well. And they also had this thing happen where the epidural like struck a nerve or something and made part of their face like numb for a little bit. Okay, so he looked right in my eyes and he's like, yep, she has it, it's Horner's syndrome. And I'm like, what? I have what? And he's like, her pupils are 2 different sizes. And the nurse looks and she's like, oh, I hadn't really noticed that. And I'm like, what the hell is Horner's syndrome? Like, my blood pressure dips and now I have some syndrome from this damn epidural that I shouldn't have even got. I'm like, what the hell is this Horner's syndrome? Like, what are you talking about? And he basically told me that what can happen is the epidural can, basically nick a nerve that will make, you know, this side of your face numb, and your pupil is 2 different sizes. And I'm like, well, is this gonna, you know, happen for the rest of my life? Like, do I go back to normal? And he was like, yeah, you'll go back to normal after delivery. All that will happen is when you push her out, you might have less sensation. And I was like so out of it, you know, just nerved up and stuff, that I'm like, lose sensation like in my vagina? Because he said something about your vagina and your butt losing sensitivity, and I was like, forever? And he's like, no, just when you push her out. So basically what happens is your eye feels puffy, you feel nasally, and then the epidural basically wears off by the time you push the baby out, is what I got from it. So I was like, whatever, as long as I go back to normal, I don't care, I'll deal with this, you know, puffy feeling eye, whatever. But it was just a mess. I mean, I go from like feeling like I'm gonna die to now I have a puffy eye. Like, it was just terrible. So once all of that crap was over with and, you know, things were okay, it was like midnight. It was like 12:15, and I just decided to try to rest. I kind of started feeling okay, but I was still like really shooken up, really traumatized from the blood pressure thing and thinking I was dying. I called my mom and I was like, you know, can you come up here? Can you guys all just come up here? Like, I literally had felt like I was dying. I wanted to see my family. It was terrible. Well, they didn't end up coming. I got calmed down. Things were better. I had amazing people by my side, my husband and my nurse. She was just seriously a godsend, you guys. Like, I don't know what, I couldn't have done it without her. She was so like calming and reassuring and quick on her feet and really nice. And she kept, you know, switching me from side to side. The whole time that she was my nurse, she had brought me a ball. She had brought me a peanut to put between my legs once I had the epidural, and flipped me, you know, to keep things progressing. She was just amazing. It was awesome. I loved her. Then, so I rest and like I'm having contractions. I can see them on the screen. My blood pressure is good. I'm like just praying to God that it doesn't dip again. And what my nurse told me is that normally that happens in the first like hour. So they stay with you for I think 30 minutes or an hour after the epidural to make sure you're okay. Well, clearly I wasn't okay, so she stayed like a lot longer. And a couple times I started feeling like that heavy chest feeling again, and I was getting really nervous, but she would come back, reassure me, like we'd look at my blood pressure, she'd take, you know, everything, make sure everything was good. It was good. So I rested. I never slept, but I rested and tried to just watch TV, talk to my mom, like just keep my mind preoccupied and not focused on the scary shit that had just happened. 2:30, 2:45, I started getting a lot of pressure and I knew I needed to start pushing. So I had my nurse come back in. I told her what I was feeling and she was like, do you want me to check you? And I was like, yeah, I think you probably should, because I'm really, you know, feeling like I need to poop. And basically that's, if you haven't given birth, that's like a big sign that you're gonna need to push if you feel like you have to poop. So she checked me and I was at an 8, and then basically like 20 minutes had gone by, I think, and I was at I was at a 9 and then a 10, like really quick. Like the pressure was on, I was like needing to push, and I think it was about 3 o'clock, so maybe my time is messed up, but like 2 o'clock, I want to say I was at an 8, and then by 3 o'clock I was at a 10 ready to push. And so I started pushing with her and pushing and pushing, and I pushed so many different ways, you guys. I laid on my side with my legs up, like pushing. I laid on my other side, legs up, pushing. Just the normal, where you're kind of on your back pushing. I held a rope and pushed. I like held the handle things and pushed, like all different stuff. Basically, I pushed for 2 hours and 10 minutes, and it felt like it. I was just like, for the first like 2 hours, I felt like I was pushing and nothing was happening. But her head was like under my pelvic bone, and at this point, we thought she was a huge baby. We thought she was like 10 pounds, you know. And so my nurse was like, you know, those big babies, it's really hard to get their head under the pubic bone, but just keep pushing, you're doing great. And so at like 5, I want to say it was like, I don't know, 5:20, I had pushed like a really big push, and I just felt like that she had moved. And I'm telling you, the nurse was like, we have to call the doctor, baby's coming. And I was like, what? Already? Like, and so she called the doctor. He barely got in there and got his gloves and everything on to catch her. Like, once her head came under that pubic bone, she was like, whoosh, flew out of me, basically. And so 5:24, I pushed her little beautiful self out, and it was the best relief, the best feeling in the entire world to push her out and not be pregnant anymore. Like, I was just like, oh my God. It was such a relief. And with Mason, when I was pushing him, I pushed for 2.5 hours with him. And I had the ring of fire so bad. I mean, he was 10 pounds, his head was huge. No epidural, like, I was screaming and hysterically bawling with him when I was pushing him out. With her, she was just, I mean, it hurt, but not nearly like it hurt with him. It was just crazy. And so she was born, and I was shocked when I looked at her. I was like, oh my God, she's tiny. She was tiny. I was like, babe, look, she's so little. And they put her on my small. And so when they weighed her and said she was 7 pounds, I was like, oh my God, like I couldn't believe it. Dylan got to cut the cord. She was just beautiful and perfect. And I didn't tear at all. I didn't have, with Mason, I had an episiotomy, and so I was kind of nervous about that. Like, oh my God, what if that tears? That's gonna be terrible. But I didn't tear. I just had one small little abrasion that he said would heal on its own, so that was awesome. I didn't have to go through the episiotomy recovery or tearing really bad and recovering. It was awesome. Yeah, the labor was crazy. The epidural was just a nightmare. Like, the scariest thing I've ever gone through in my life was that epidural. And I would not recommend one to anybody. I was so scared. But yeah, once I pushed her out, she was just beautiful, and she looked just like her brother. It was crazy, so emotional, so happy. Everything was great. We're all healthy. And now I will show you guys my sweet little babe. Oh, okay, hold on. So her name is Presley Kay, and she is beautiful, and she's actually over a month old now. So I'm filming this pretty late, obviously. I still have to get her 1 month update up, but I will show her you guys anyway because she's just gorgeous. And see, hers is sleeping. And there she is. There's little Presley Kay. Oh, mama's baby. Let's see if I can hold her a little less awkward. There's the baby. I wish she would smile. You gonna smile for mama? She did want to kiss me. So here's our girl. Say hi. Hi. Say hi. There I am. There I am.
No, talk hi.
Oh, okay.
Hi.
Aww. And she already does smile and stuff. I wish I could get her to smile. Smile, baby. Smile. Do, 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 do. So precious. So yeah, that is my girl. Like I said, she was born January 16th, 2018 at 5:24 in the morning. She was 7 pounds, 11 ounces, and 21 1/4 inches long, and beautiful. Tons of hair, puffy little lips, absolutely perfect, and we could not be happier. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that if you're pregnant or just gave birth that you're feeling good, feeling great, and also let me know if any of you have experienced the crazy epidural. Like, I just cannot believe it happened. The whole time I was like, I should not have got this damn epidural. I should have just done it naturally. I did it once, I should have done it again. But you know, things happen. What can you do, right, Press? What can you do? So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for Presley's 1 month update, Mason's 3-year update. You wanna say bye? No, is she gonna cry?
No. Bye.
All right, we'll see you later.